and welcome, football fans, to another episode here of Tim Reynolds Show's Friday Football Talk, baby. And hey, another NFL season is in the books, and a huge congratulations to the Super Bowl 60 champion Seattle Seahawks as they defeated the New England Patriots in dominant fashion, and they are your NFL Super Bowl 60 champions. Congratulations to the Seattle Seahawks franchise winning their second Super Bowl title in franchise history. And guys, there's also been reports that we will see the Seattle Seahawks football franchise possibly go up for sale here in the 2026 NFL offseason. So that's some big news to get things started here on Tim Reynolds Show's Friday Football Talk. Hope you guys are in for a good one here on Friday. Hope you're having a great Friday afternoon. Make sure you guys tune in right here on Tim Reynolds Show with your football questions, and I hope you guys will enjoy the live stream here on Tim Reynolds Show. All right, guys, so let's get things started. I think the best way to start, instead of getting into all the big offseason questions, let's start out with the coaching carousel that has been happening here as we get to the start of the NFL offseason here shortly. And what an incredible NFL playoffs it was here in 2026. Congratulations once again to the Seattle Seahawks, your Super Bowl 60 champions. All right, guys, so let's get into, first off, we're going to go over all of the coaching changes that did happen during the end of the NFL season and during the NFL playoffs this far. As we're getting ready to start the NFL offseason here in 2026, there is going to be a lot of questions to be answered or have to be answered by a lot of these NFL teams. Remember, only one NFL team can win the Super Bowl every year. That leaves 31 other teams with a lot more questions than answers as they head into the 2026 offseason. What's up, Keith? How we doing, my brother? Thank you, everybody, for hanging out here on Tim Reynolds Show. Don't forget to please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. All right, guys, so let's get right into it. Once again, congratulations to Seattle Seahawks. We're able to dominate the New England Patriots in the Super Bowl, man. And let's just go over that real quickly here for you guys as we look over that particular game and the score that was, because for me, man, I did not expect this dominant of a performance by the Seattle Seahawks against the New England Patriots. What's up, Master Drew? Yes, we are doing Friday Night SmackDown tonight. Appreciate you coming into the chat. What's going on, Keith? One of our moderators and one of our longtime subscribers here on the channel says, if you're listening to the greatest commentary on YouTube, Tim Reynolds. Thank you, Keith. I appreciate that. So, guys, let's go ahead and just go over that Super Bowl right quick. The Seattle Seahawks were able to dominate, man, and get the 29-13 victory over the New England Patriots. Now, for the Patriots, man, they just struggled on offense throughout the whole game. It really wasn't to the fourth quarter that we see the New England Patriots be able to put some offense on the field, as we see Drake May finish with 295 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, both of those coming in the fourth quarter, but unfortunately 2 interceptions and a fumble would be very costly for the New England Patriots quarterback as we look at that here in this game. He's got 2 interceptions and 1 fumble loss, so 3 turnovers on the day for the young quarterback there. The backup for the NFL MVP this season, Drake May, unfortunately did not have a good game in Super Bowl 60, and we did see that unfortunately it looks like he was dealing with some right shoulder pain, so that had to definitely play into this in my opinion, because with that shoulder he was not able to throw the ball as great as we would have liked to see Drake May throw the ball. But this was a tough Seattle Seahawks defense that got to the quarterback 6 times. That's right, guys. 6 sacks in the Super Bowl. I think was tied for the 4th most or the 5th most in a Super Bowl. So a really dominant performance by the Seattle defense. 6 sacks, 3 turnovers, and also a defensive touchdown. A dominant performance for the Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks. As we look at the rest of the stats here for New England, Drake May also finished as the leading ball carrier with 5 carries for 37 yards. New England only had 79 total rushing yards in this particular game. Matt Collins finished as the leading receiver with 4 catches for 78 yards and a touchdown. Demario Douglas had 5 catches for 45 yards, and Ramondre Stevenson had 5 catches for 40 yards and a touchdown to go with 7 carries and 23 yards. But guys, the one thing that really stood out to me is we didn't see the rookie Travion Henderson have a big impact in this game. Only 3 catches catches for 26 yards and 6 carries for 19 yards. But guys, also, Stephon Diggs was held to 3 catches and 37 yards, and that's not going to get it done if you're New England. We did see the young quarterback, unfortunately, panic and wasn't able to keep his composure and keep it down on those turnovers. So unfortunately, with all the mistakes that the New England Patriots offense made, that really overshadowed the type of defensive play that we see from New England, especially in the second half, where they really gave their team a chance in that third quarter. But for me, I think New England, even though they played pretty good on defense, we did see a lot of good numbers put up by the Seattle offense. We see Sam Darnold really have an efficient game in this one with only 202 passing yards and 1 passing touchdown, but they kept him clean as that offensive line for Seattle was able to hold that Patriots defensive line to only 1 sack on the day. We did see 135 rushing yards on 27 carries by Kenneth Walker III, and we also seen 2 catches for 26 yards for your Super Bowl 60 MVP running back Kenneth Walker. And guys, Kenneth Walker becomes the first running back to win the Super Bowl MVP since Terrell Davis did it back with the Denver Broncos in the late 90s. So it's been quite a while since we've seen a running back be able to win the MVP award. So congratulations to him. Congratulations to the Seattle Seahawks as well. We see Cooper Kupp was the leading receiver with 6 catches for 61 yards. A.J. Barner with 4 catches for 54 yards. And even though Rashid Shaheed only had 2 catches for 27 yards, he also is pretty dangerous in the return game for Seattle. Their special teams was on fire because, guys, we've seen an a Super Bowl record, I should say, 5 for 5 field goals for Jason Myers, the longest being from 41 yards out, not to mention those 2 extra points he got. So 17 total points here from the kicker from Seattle. I'm surprised he didn't win the MVP, guys. I thought there was a chance we could have seen our first Super Bowl MVP be a kicker, but unfortunately it would not come to be. But an excellent day there for the kicker and the special teams for the Seattle Seahawks. We see also Jackson Smith-Njigba, JSN, the NFL Offensive Player of the Year this past season, finished with 4 catches for 27 yards, but his impact was definitely more felt with the double teams getting other guys open, and that's why Cooper Kupp and A.J. Barner were able to have a very good game in this one. And we also see here from the Seattle defense, Ernest Jones, number 13, finished with 11 tackles in the Super Bowl. A really dominant performance by the Seattle defense as they were able to get not only 3 turnovers in this game, but also a defensive touchdown to get the victory, 29-13 over the New England Patriots. So once again, guys, congratulations to the Seattle Seahawks, your Super Bowl 60 champions, guys. And like we mentioned, we could see the Seattle Seahawks franchise go up for sale, according to rumors and reports, especially after winning the Super Bowl. Talk about selling on a high note. We could see a big bid coming in this NFL offseason here in 2026, where we could see Seattle be sold to a new owner. So we're getting into that right into our NFL offseason questions here, guys. So if you've got any questions, guys, whatsoever, any football questions, be sure to please hit me up right here in the live chat with those questions, guys. I really appreciate y'all. So, all right. So let's get into the NFL offseason here, guys. First, we're going to get into the coaching carousel, and let's start with the Buffalo Bills. That's right, guys. They fired former head coach Sean McDermott after 9 seasons where he really led the team to the playoffs almost every single year besides 2 NFL seasons. And this was a big surprise for me. I did not expect the Buffalo Bills to fire their head coach after getting all the way to the divisional round of the playoffs. But I guess after that tough loss against the Denver Broncos, it was just time for a change, according to the ownership there for the Buffalo Bills. But guys, this is where I was really confused, man. It seemed like ownership was throwing other people under the bus while not blaming the general manager, who actually got a promotion to president of football operations, because he only has 2 Pro Bowlers selected on this roster besides Josh Allen, which means that they have not been able to draft or develop a lot of players on this football team. Now, they've hit maybe hit or miss, I should say, in NFL free agency over the last few years, but we know that Josh Allen has needed a prime weapon at the wide receiver position, and they have not been able to get that for him over the last few years. So we've seen a coaching change here for the Buffalo Bills, and guys, looking at this, now they have promoted their offensive coordinator, Joe Brady, to be their new head coach, and this is going to be very interesting to see what happens, especially bringing in a new defensive coordinator, Jim Leonard, from the Denver Broncos. And guys, Leonard will have to take over this defense that Sean McDermott really for years has held up as being a pretty decent defense, although this past season it really wasn't as good as we would have liked. As we see Leonard, who was formerly the defensive pass game coordinator for the Broncos, will come in after his Broncos defense allowed the second fewest yards per game with 278 yards, and a true shutdown with the true defense that he had with the Denver Broncos last year. So we'll see, will Jim Leonard and the new head coach there, Brady, be able to turn over a new leaf for the Buffalo Bills? I'm not exactly sure, to be honest with you guys. I don't know if I like this move for Buffalo, but I think it's going to help out quarterback Josh Allen, and maybe because they've got a young head coach, they'll be a little bit more aggressive in free agency. I think the big offseason questions coming in for the Buffalo Bills will be, will they get another number one or possibly playmaking wide receiver, whether that's in the NFL draft or in free agency? If you ask me, I think they need a veteran presence at that wide receiver position. If they can get a wide receiver one, there may be some guys maybe on the trade market or in free agency that they're able to bring in, which would really help out Josh Allen. But they also need to improve that defense, because they definitely have struggled near the end of the season stopping a lot of people. And even though they have some athletic playmakers on that side of the ball for Buffalo, I think their defense needs to get some improvement, not only in the secondary, but also along their defensive line. They need to get a little bit more athletic at the linebacker position as well. So we'll see how that plays out into the offseason for the Buffalo Bills, who come in with a lot of questions rather than answers. But hopefully the new head coach Brady there will be able to keep the offense running smoothly and being as dominant of an offense as it has been for the Buffalo Bills over the last few seasons. All right, guys, so let's get into our next coaching change here, and we're going to get to the Miami Dolphins. And guys, this one was a little bit of a confusing one, because we did think at one point this offseason that head coach Mike McDaniels would be kept as the head coach for the Miami Dolphins, but unfortunately that was not the case, as he was let go. And we also will see the former head coach of the Dolphins, Mike McDaniels, will now be the new offensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Chargers. I really like that move for the Chargers going forward, so we'll have to see how that plays out. But for the Dolphins, they hired Green Bay Packers defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley to be their new head coach. And guys, this has already got a lot of Dolphin fans up in the air, wondering why this move was made when they were hoping to get a veteran-style head coach who already had head coaching experience and could possibly come in and help change the culture of this Miami Dolphins franchise that has struggled over the last decade or so just to make the playoffs. And guys, I think the Miami Dolphins are looking for a huge turnaround here, and they're hoping Jeff Hafley will be the guy to do it. Now, they do need to step up their defensive game plan. Over the last couple of years, their defense has not been that good, but I'm really curious what kind of culture Jeff Hafley is going to try to get down there in Miami for this Dolphins franchise that has just struggled to be a relevant team over the last decade or so. So looking at this, guys, I want to ask you guys in the chat, do you think the Dolphins made the right move hiring defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley from the Green Bay Packers? Well, they did bring in another Packers guy as their general manager, which obviously led to this move. The GM has a relationship that he already built with Jeff Hafley, which means they're going to hopefully work together to get this team where they wanted. And they were uncommittal on quarterback Tua Tagovailoa, which means heading forward, that's going to probably be their biggest question heading into the 2026 NFL offseason. They've got to get a lot of playmakers on the defensive side of the ball this offseason as well, but that offense could look very different heading into next season, especially with the contracts of Tyreek Hill and Tua Tagovailoa. Both of those they've got to work out and situate. I don't think we'll see wide receiver Tyreek Hill returning to the Miami Dolphins. He could be released before June and we get into that offseason workout program. But for Tua, that one's really up in the air right now. They could keep him, but if they let him go, if they release quarterback Tua Tagovailoa, that could be a $99 million cap hit for the Miami Dolphins, which would really cap restraint them for being able to make moves this offseason to help improve this team. So heading into the offseason for the Miami Dolphins, they've got a lot of questions, and hopefully we'll be able to see some answers here from new head coach Jeff Hafley. And guys, we're going to go ahead and get into our next round of questions here for the Miami Dolphins. Like we said, it will be critical to find out what quarterback will they have this offseason. Will they stick with Tua or will they go with someone different? That's probably going to be the biggest question for the Miami Dolphins. Now, let's get into the New England Patriots as we'll just finish up here with the AFC East here, right? So for the Patriots, they make the Super Bowl, and now you've got to really see, are you able to keep some of these key pieces on your team, including a cornerback Christian Gonzalez, who has been a big playmaker for them on their defense, but they spent a lot of money last offseason, not only on contract extensions, but also on free agents and trades that they made. So there could be maybe not as much cap room to keep Christian Gonzalez, but I do think they'll get a contract extension done with the playmaker there for the New England Patriots. But they've got to figure out this offensive line because Campbell, unfortunately, played very, very bad in the Super Bowl. They have committed to him in the future at left tackle, but they're going to need to make sure that these guys on offense, on that offensive line, really work out together as much as possible this offseason and try to focus on what they really need to work on in order for them to get back into the Super Bowl. I think New England is probably going to have a quiet offseason, especially after what we've seen them do last year. So for New England, heading into 2026, I think their biggest question is, can they get Christian Gonzalez signed to an extension? And will we be able to see improvements done to this offensive line as well for New England? And we also could see Ramondre Stevenson become a cap casualty as that running back signed an extension a couple years ago. I think, unfortunately, we could see him get released in order for them to save a little bit of cap room, especially with how well Trey Henderson, the rookie running back, played last year for this past season for the New England Patriots. So heading into the next team here, guys, in the AFC East, and that is the New York Jets. And guys, how will they be able to reset the quarterback position and find a franchise quarterback, whether that's in the NFL draft or in free agency? They tried to go with Justin Fields last year, and now it's looking like this offseason doesn't have a lot of suitors that I think would fit in this Jets offense. When you look at some of the veterans, you look at someone like Kirk Cousins and possibly Jacoby Brissett as guys that they could bring in to help get the quarterback position filled with a guy who has had experience and has played in the league for quite a few years, which could help out the young Jets head coach as well. But really what I think is going to be the biggest question is, will they take a big swing for maybe a trade for a guy like Kyler Murray? There is a possibility of Tua Tagovailoa getting traded to the Jets, but I think that cap hit may be a little too high for the Jets. But maybe someone like Malik Willis, who is scheduled to be a free agent this offseason, could be a guy the Jets look at because he played very, very well, being the backup for the Green Bay Packers this season and filling in for quarterback Jordan Love. So looking at that, guys, I think the Jets have a lot more questions and answers going into this offseason now. And I think it's definitely going to be something that we have to pay attention to as well, because we have seen the Jets struggle to find new coaches to come to this squad in general, right? We did hear reports that they tried to get former head coach John Gruden to come be their offensive coordinator. That didn't work out, but they were able to get a deal done with Frank Reich, who is a former NFL head coach, to come in and help out that offense. So we'll see how that works for Jets fans. But man, I tell you what, it's going to be a tough offseason for the New York Jets, if you ask me, guys. All right, so let's get into some of our other NFL offseason questions. First, we'll go to the AFC North Division. And guys, of course, you know where we're going to have to start here, and that's going to be with the Baltimore Ravens. And guys, the Ravens moved on from longtime head coach, 19 seasons, or I should say 18 seasons as the head coach. John Harbaugh has now been let go and parted ways with the Baltimore Ravens, in coming in as the new head coach for the Baltimore Ravens football franchise. It's one of their former coaches with the Harbaugh regime, as we see Jesse Minter, the former Los Angeles Chargers defensive coordinator, now becomes the new Baltimore Ravens head coach. And the first thing we're going to have to see Minter do is find a way to replace offensive coordinator Todd Monken, who also took a head coaching job in the AFC North, and we'll get to that a little bit later. So Jesse Minter, even though I like him as a defensive play caller for this Baltimore's defense that is stacked right now, hopefully getting a lot of these guys back from injury, that'll be very important for the Baltimore Ravens this offseason. But they're going to have to really find, I think, a unique offensive play caller here to try to make sure that they get Lamar Jackson and running back Derrick Henry in the best positions to succeed possible. Now, the big question I have for Baltimore is, will they finally take a big swing at possibly a trade or a free agent signing for a number one wide receiver? No disrespect to Zay Jones. This guy is better utilized as a slot wide receiver or a motion guy, but the Baltimore Ravens have been without a true number one wideout since they drafted Lamar Jackson. So for me, if they're able to get a guy, let's say like A.J. Brown, maybe a guy like Courtland Sutton, two guys that could be on the trade market this NFL offseason here in 2026, I think those are realistic possibilities for those guys heading into the NFL offseason for the Baltimore Ravens. Now, they've got to get healthy on that defensive side of the ball, but they've got enough playmakers where if they're able just to re-sign a couple of guys and bring them back for next year, this defense should be pretty good if you ask me. But when we look at the questions for the Baltimore Ravens, they know they need to get a new deal done with Lamar Jackson. That will help lower his salary cap hit, which is scheduled to be somewhere around $74.5 million, and which could create anywhere up to $25 to $30 million in cap space if they're able to get a new deal done with their franchise quarterback, Lamar Jackson. But one other thing is they will look to re-sign center Tyler Linderbaum, who did make the Pro Bowl this year and is the top free agent for the Baltimore Ravens coming up this offseason. But they're going to also need to look at that offensive line that struggled near the end of last season to really see if they can find some improvements or upgrades along that O-line for the Baltimore Ravens in this offseason. But for me, guys, I think the Ravens need to try to find some key veterans or maybe some really good draft picks to help give them depth, not only on offense, but especially on defense. And I think the biggest need for them, besides re-signing their Pro Bowl center, will be finding a true number one wide receiver this offseason. I've said this about the Baltimore Ravens over the last couple of off seasons. If they legit want to be contenders and want to get past the first or second round of the playoffs, they need to have a guy who can take over games and really help out Lamar Jackson, because let's face it, if you can keep Jackson healthy, which means that offensive line is playing well, you got Derrick Henry, who they need to give the ball a little bit more to him in crucial situations. If you're able to have a good game plan with that, you have a true number one. You've already got Mark Andrews at the tight end position and Zay Flowers as a slot guy. This offense could be one of the best in the NFL next season. And guys, I was surprised, man, with all the star power, all the guys that the Ravens had on their football team heading into the 2025 NFL season. It was one of those things, in my opinion, where I think the Ravens definitely underachieved with the playmakers they have on this football team. So we're going to see if they can live up to the potential of being a contender for the Super Bowl next NFL season as we head into the 2026 NFL offseason. Thank you guys for hanging out here on Tim Reynolds Show. Don't forget to please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. So guys, for the Baltimore Ravens, I think new head coach Jesse Minter will be a guy that will help elevate this defense. I just really think it's going to be key what happens with the offensive coordinator and whoever comes in and how that offense is able to run with Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. And then, guys, going to our next team here in the AFC North, let's talk about the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, guys, there are going to be a lot of questions heading into this offseason for the Bengals on how in the heck are they going to get this defense to be anywhere near a contender for the Super Bowl next season. For the Cincinnati Bengals, though, they also probably need to talk to their quarterback, Joe Burrow, who seemed like he might be losing interest in football with all the injuries that he's been dealing with. But this offense is way too dynamic for them not to try to take some type of home run swing with a defensive player, a pass rusher, or maybe a couple of defensive guys, veteran guys to bring in to really help out this Cincinnati Bengals defense that just struggled so bad last year. And guys, I'm still shocked that Zach Taylor still has a job as the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals. I think that for the Bengals fans, they're probably expecting that things can get better, but I think they were expecting a new head coach this offseason. So, and this is the only team that didn't have a new head coach coming into this offseason as well. So that's very interesting to see what's going to happen with that there, guys. But thank you so much for hanging out here, guys, on the channel. I appreciate y'all. Oh, my goodness, man. We got a bunch of comments here. I appreciate y'all. What's going on, man? We got Tank and Keith. Heck yeah, man. What's up, Logan? How we doing there, guys? Man, appreciate y'all. What's up, Julian? Cons Productions, how we doing, man? Heck yeah, man. We got to keep riding with Mayfield, dude. What's up, Michael? How we doing, man? All right, thank you guys so much. Keith, thanks for keeping us up to date here, man. What's up, William from Cleveland, Ohio? Heck yeah, Shadow Sports, baby. Let's go. Heck yeah, Owen says, go Birds. Let's go. Heck yeah, man. Thought Buffalo would be in the Super Bowl? Heck yeah, man. I think a lot of people thought that. What's up there, Nathan? Heck yeah, man. We talking AFC. Let's go. All right, guys. Try to make sure we keep up with those comments as best as we can. Thank you, guys. I appreciate y'all. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. All right. So, guys, let's go up next here. We've got the Cleveland Browns. And, guys, we've seen the Browns let go of their two-time head coach of the year, Kevin Stefanski. And they brought in former Baltimore Ravens offensive coordinator Todd Monken to be their new head coach. Here, before we get into the 2026 NFL offseason, Cleveland will have to also look to replace their defensive coordinator. That's right, guys. We see Jim Schwartz announce that he was leaving the team following them not deciding to go with him as their next head coach. So for me, that's going to be the biggest loss for Cleveland in this, man. I know Kevin Stefanski was a good offensive play caller. I think Todd Monken's going to come in and be able to help lift that offensive up. We know he likes Shedeur Sanders after we heard reports from last season when the Baltimore Ravens did try to draft quarterback Shedeur Sanders last year. So we'll see how that relationship sort of plays out heading into this offseason for the Cleveland Browns. But I don't think a lot of Browns fans like this move by any means. But we'll see if Todd Monken can help elevate this defense, or I should say offense. But the defense, yeah, that's what's going to take a hit here, guys. Jim Schwartz has helped this defense be dominant. One of the best defenses over the last couple of years for the Cleveland Browns. I mean, heck, Myles Garrett became the all-time single-season sack leader with 23 sacks this season with Jim Schwartz as his DC. So really, how do they replace him? I really don't know, man. I think this was a big mistake by Cleveland because you probably really wanted to hold on to Jim Schwartz, and I know they were looking for an offensive-minded head coach, but I think they might have been better off hiring Jim Schwartz, who also has head coaching experience. So I think that was a big miss by Cleveland, and this could really hurt their defense. Now, the Browns do have 2 first-round picks and 10 total selections in the 2026 NFL Draft, so they could be really looking to go younger and get a lot more prospects on this team because I don't see them being a favorable destination for a lot of NFL free agents coming up in the NFL offseason. But hey, good luck to new head coach Todd Monken, a former Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive coordinator. He also was the OC for the University of Georgia. Excuse me. When they won back-to-back national titles. So I do think that Todd Monken will be able to come in and help out this Cleveland Browns offense. But How will it hurt the defense? We'll just have to wait and see. And then, guys, up next in our last team here in the AFC North Division, guys, one of the biggest shockers of the NFL season thus far, I should say the start of the offseason, was head coach Mike Tomlin stepping down after 19 seasons as the head coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, for Pittsburgh, they're not really used to looking for new head coaches here, but man, it was a shocker to me when they did find their next head coach. How Pittsburgh Steelers fans really reacted to this was a bit of a shocker in my opinion. As we see, they were able to hire head coach Mike McCarthy as their new Pittsburgh Steelers head coach. And guys, a guy from Pittsburgh, this to me was probably one of the best head coaching hires of this cycle. Now, Mike McCarthy comes in with already having previously head coaching experience with the Green Bay Packers, winning a Super Bowl with them, and also most recently with the Dallas Cowboys a couple of seasons ago. So for me, I think head coach Mike McCarthy is going to be a good upgrade. A good offensive-minded head coach, and a guy that I really do think will be able to help elevate this Pittsburgh Steelers offense. But the big question for Pittsburgh here is going to be the quarterback position. Will they bring back quarterback Aaron Rodgers, or will they try to roll the dice with maybe someone like a Will Howard, who they drafted in the 6th round last year? Will they maybe try to go with Mason Rudolph, who has experience as being the Pittsburgh Steelers starting quarterback? I'm not sure, man. It is pointing directions right now, thinking that with the previous relationship with Aaron Rodgers and new head coach Mike McCarthy, that could be the way that Pittsburgh decides to go, but we'll have to wait and see. Right now for Pittsburgh, they have got to make sure they keep a lot of key pieces on this defense and try to help improve the depth on that defensive side of the ball. And for that offensive line, they have got to get better playing offensive linemen for the Pittsburgh Steelers heading into the next season, because man, that running game just did not get it done for Pittsburgh this past year, and I really do think they're going to look to improve not only the offensive line, but possibly the running back position as well heading into the 2026 NFL offseason. Damn it, man. Excuse me, guys. All right, so we'll get into the AFC South here, guys, and some of the biggest questions for the AFC South champion, Jacksonville Jaguars, after they unfortunately had their playoff run cut short after winning the AFC South. We'll see if quarterback Trevor Lawrence can continue on his upward tick. He had a really good bounce-back season this year, and he probably could have won NFL Comeback Player of the Year if it wasn't for a couple of the other candidates. And I tell you what, the biggest question for them is going to be Travis Hunter, whether or not he keeps playing both sides of the ball as he recovers from that injury that he suffered from a year ago. And we do see they struggled last year in getting to the quarterback and sacking the quarterback on that defense that actually played pretty well. Other than that, this defense was one of the best defenses in the NFL last year, especially near the end of the season. So for Jacksonville, they're going to need to find some pass rushers this offseason. I think they're going to be able to look not only in free agency, but also in the trade market for somebody like maybe the Raiders' Max Crosby, who we've seen a lot of other teams on the radar for a top all-pro pass rusher like a Max Crosby. But if the Jaguars can't get a guy like that, they'll look for some veteran free agents this offseason or possibly in the NFL draft to try to get somebody to help improve this pass rush for the Jacksonville Jaguars. On offense, I think the addition of wide receiver Jacoby Myers was a big one to help out this offense and Trevor Lawrence, and possibly re-signing Travis Etienne could be a big decision coming up here for the Jacksonville Jaguars as far as their questions heading into the 2026 NFL offseason. What's up here, guys? Do you think the Packers will let go of Malik Willis instead of Jordan Love? Yeah, what's going on there, Demon Gun? I really do think so. To be honest, I don't think Malik Willis is going to be able to get the contract that he would like staying in Green Bay. So he's probably going to leave the Packers and go to a team where he could possibly be the starter and get starter-like money. That's what I'm expecting from Malik Willis after being a really good backup this year and taking over a couple of games for the injured Jordan Love. What's going on there? We got NDTU. Lane fan, what's going on, man? Do you think Max Crosby will go on the Bears? I'm not sure about that. I don't think the Bears have enough cap room to be able to get a guy like Max Crosby. Now, if they do trade a couple of those defensive players that they signed last year, I do think they could create some cap room with a deal like that. But I'm not expecting the Chicago Bears to be too aggressive this offseason because they were pretty aggressive the last two off seasons. So I expect the Bears to sort of be not as busy here in the 2026 NFL offseason. So thank you for the question there, man. What do you think Jay Love will draft? I'm not sure about that question there, man. You'll have to rephrase that, brother. All right, so we get to our next team here, guys, in the AFC South. And let's talk about the Tennessee Titans, guys, because they will have a new head coach after letting go of Brian Callahan early in the season. We will see Robert Saleh come in as the new Tennessee Titans head coach heading into the 2026 NFL offseason. Robert Saleh comes in after being the defensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers, once again helping them get to the divisional round of the NFC playoffs. But guys, Robert Saleh comes in with former head coaching experience for the New York Jets, and that didn't work out too well for the former Jets head coach. But Robert Saleh looks to turn over a new leaf and bring a different attitude to this Tennessee Titans franchise, as he promises that they're going to hit guys straight in the mouth, and they're going to look to build a culture here of not only toughness but responsibility. And I think the Titans are really looking to turn over a new leaf because Brian Callahan, that situation just did not work out, and I do think that Robert Saleh will help in the development of young quarterback Cam Ward, because if Robert Saleh can get that defense where he wants to and let the offense do their thing, that's sort of going to be the way he coaches or head coaches this Tennessee Titans football team. Now, the biggest thing, guys, I think to look out for is the new offensive coordinator, Brian Daboll, coming in to run the Tennessee Titans offense. I think that's a big, big deal for quarterback Cam Ward and his development heading into the NFL offseason here in 2026. So I like that move more so than in the head coaching move. Robert Saleh comes in with some experience, so I think it was smart by the Tennessee Titans to look for that previous head coaching experience with their new hire. But I think bringing in offensive coordinator Brian Daboll, who's the former head coach of the New York Football Giants, I think that was the bigger deal here for the Tennessee Titans. And I think heading into the offseason, they're going to need to find some playmakers at the wide receiver position, including what to do already with Calvin Ridley, who really hasn't performed up to that contract that they gave him a few years ago. So they could look to move on from him or possibly trade or release him. So I think they'll be looking for another veteran wideout in the offseason. But then also in the NFL draft, look for them to get young and athletic on that defense, because I think that's what Robert Saleh is going to want to do, man. Oh, Notre Dame, what's going on, man? Notre Dame fan, heck yeah, man. Appreciate that. Let's see, we get here into the comments. Do you think Ohio State Buckeyes have possibly first-round picks in this year's draft? I don't know about that, Stuart, but they're definitely going to get a couple. There'll be at least 2, maybe even 3 Ohio State players going in the upcoming 2026 NFL draft, if you ask me. All right. So, guys, I really do think that Brian Daboll will be able to help in the development of quarterback Cam Ward for the Tennessee Titans there, and good luck to their new head coach, Robert Saleh. Now, let's get to the Indianapolis Colts, and I was surprised, guys. No coaching changes whatsoever for the Colts, man, as they look to run things back once again. And we're going to need to see this defense take some more steps of improving like they did a little bit last year. But they really fell off near the end of the season. They were 23rd in yards allowed per game, averaging almost 350 yards given up per game. So they're really going to need to bolster that pass rush and linebacker unit that was underwhelming last year. And for the offense, they just need to stay healthy. I don't know if they'll be able to keep quarterback Daniel Jones with a contract extension or not, but I do think that's important to keep him around so that you can make sure that this offense will keep running smoothly like we've seen them at the beginning of the year last year. Jonathan Taylor's still there, so that's a guy who's really going to help be a workhorse for this Indianapolis Colts team. The offensive line dealt with a lot of injuries, so maybe they'll get a little bit better as well heading into the offseason here. I think the biggest thing for the Colts, the biggest question for them is going to be whether or not they are going to keep their general manager and their head coach after the upcoming season, because it's going to be make it or break it for these guys, man. I really do think that general manager Chris Ballard is a guy that definitely has to step up and find a way to get the Colts back in the playoffs if they want a chance to keep their jobs heading into this season. And guys, for the offense, man, we really need to see this offense step up a little bit with the playmakers on the outside, and the defense has got to get a little bit more athletic at that linebacker position. Going over to the Houston Texans, guys, now our last team here in the AFC South. For the Texans, they need to figure out how they can improve quarterback C.J. Stroud, who struggled very bad in the playoffs this year. And even though they were able to get a playoff victory, we've seen this O-line struggled once again. This is now back-to-back seasons, giving up way too many sacks. As we see, they were tied with the Lions for the NFL's second worst pass block rate at only 55.5%. Which is not going to get it done. So could we see the Texans look to either use their first round pick on an offensive lineman? We possibly could see them do that and get some veteran guys in the free agency period to help out that offensive line. That's probably going to be their biggest question. This defense is solid. There may be some guys you need to get done with a contract extension, which, hey, better probably to do that earlier rather than later when it comes to a lot of those other defensive guys there for the Texans. Excuse me. So, guys, heading into the AFC West, and first, guys, we're going to go over the Las Vegas Raiders, who will have another new head coach after letting go of veteran head coach Pete Carroll, who only had one season as the Las Vegas Raiders head coach, and now they hire former Super Bowl champion offensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks, Clint Kubiak, to come in and be their new head coach. Now, I'm really interested in this hire because I think Kubiak is a guy who's been looked at by a lot of NFL teams as a guy who could be a future head coach, especially with his father and his lineage coming into this particular franchise. The Raiders need a big turnaround here, guys. They have not been relevant, I think, in the last 2 decades. So for the Raiders, they need big changes quickly, and that can't come soon enough. And I really do think one of the big moves they could make would be trading Max Crosby for a lot of draft picks or players this offseason. What's going up? We got Anthony. What's going on, man? So are you doing SmackDown tonight? Yes, sir. We will be going live for WWE SmackDown tonight with play-by-play right here on one of the most electrifying sports entertainment channels on YouTube today. It's Tim Reynolds Show. Now let's go. And all right, guys, yeah, for the Raiders, that's going to be their biggest question. What to do with Max Crosby? Crosby has already stated that he does not want to come back to the Raiders, especially after they treated him the way they did last year in a very down year for the Raiders. And they're going to need to figure out what to do at the quarterback position. I know that they signed Geno Smith to a contract extension, but they're going to probably need to possibly move off of that contract and try to find somebody. And guys, with the Raiders having the number 1 overall pick, I think they could be looking to draft Mendoza, who was the national championship winning quarterback and Heisman Trophy winner this past season for the Indiana Hoosiers, man. I feel like the Raiders are going to trade the whole package for Lamar Jackson, and Lamar Jackson or Francisco Mendoza carry the team next season. Well, thank you there, Durakid. I hope I said that right. Mr. 67, hope you're doing good, man. And thank you there for your comment. And if you guys have any football questions, anything you want to ask or shout out, hit me up with those super chats here on the live stream here on Tim Reynolds Show. So yeah, guys, a lot of questions for the Raiders heading into the offseason. They're going to need to address the running back position and get this defense playing a lot better with maybe looking at a bunch of guys in the draft. But we'll have to see what happens there for the Raiders. Now, going over to the Kansas City Chiefs, to me, the biggest thing we're going to look at here for the Chiefs, they've got a new offensive coordinator in Eric Bieniemy. Guys, he comes back after winning Super Bowls with this Chiefs offense before, and now we'll see him back in the fold, which I really think is going to help elevate this Chiefs offense to another level, especially after the down year they had last year. Now, the defense, I think, is going to be crucial to see whether or not they're going to be able to keep the same sort of playmakers on that defensive side of the ball, and whether or not tight end Travis Kelce will return for this Chiefs offense, I think is probably the biggest question heading into this offseason here for the Chiefs. Now, let's not forget, guys, Patrick Mahomes is dealing with a torn ACL, so hopefully he'll be able to come back fully healthy for the Chiefs at the start of next year. Oh, here we go. What team do you think will draft Jeremiah Love from the University of Notre Dame, who was a Heisman Trophy finalist, by the way? And what does your mock draft look like? Yeah, what's up? I have not made my mock draft as of yet, guys. We just found out what the draft order would be, obviously, earlier this week with the Super Bowl happening. And for me, I think whoever's the most needy running back team in the NFL draft should be the guy looking to draft Jeremiah Love. I'm expecting Jeremiah Love of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish to get drafted early in the 2026 NFL draft. It's just going to be a question of what team finds him more valuable, right? The Raiders certainly could be a team that could look to have another running back there, but with them already drafting Genty last year, I possibly don't see him going that high, but maybe in the top 10, I could possibly see Jordan Love going, which is actually pretty interesting when you think about that, right? Because let me see here if I can find out where the draft order is as of right now. Yeah, so the Jets and the Cardinals could be a good possibility. It's best, I really like the Tennessee Titans at number 4. That could definitely be a team that looks at running back Jeremiah Love, in my opinion. And hey, how about the Chiefs, right? They're at number 9. I think I would say the Chiefs are probably my favorite to draft Jeremiah Love. So, hey, appreciate your questions here in the comments, man. Thank you so much. All right, do you think Taylor Green is going to go in the draft, a decent quarterback, and go to the Buccaneers, their 4th rounder or bench player for behind Baker Mayfield? I'm not sure about that, man. To me, I think Taylor Green's probably got to prove a little bit more at the NFL Combine to see what's happening. I wasn't a fan. Yeah, man, Super Bowl is what it is, but I appreciate you guys. All right. All right, so let's get back to the AFC West, and then we're going to talk about the Denver Broncos. And the thing to really focus on for them will be new offensive coordinator Davis Webb, who got promoted from quarterbacks coach this offseason starting here. And I really do think Nick's recovery from the broken ankle is going to be something to look out for. And whether or not the Broncos offense moves from wide receiver Cortland Sutton, they did just sign him to a contract extension last offseason, but this is a guy they could look to move this offseason because he could be a valuable commodity to a lot of teams who are looking for a number 1 wide receiver. One of the suitors, I think, for Cortland Sutton could be the Baltimore Ravens, so maybe a trade happening between Denver and Baltimore with this particular offseason coming up. But for Denver, they've got a really good defense. Got to make sure you re-sign some of those guys if you need to. Keep this offensive line intact that played very good last season. And then whether or not to keep or bring back J.K. Dobbins for the Denver Broncos is going to be a key thing. And then maybe even see them looking at their running back position either in the NFL offseason or in the NFL draft coming up, man. What's up, Anthony? Do you think who will win tonight in Cody, Jacob, and Sami Zayn? That's a tough one to call, Anthony, to be honest with you, man. But if I really had to pick, I guess I'd go with Cody Rhodes, but it just seems like with what's happening with Rhodes and Fatu and Drew McIntyre, maybe this could be Sami Zayn's match to win. We'll have to wait and see. I don't know about Fatu. He would probably be the most exciting person to have in the Elimination Chamber, but yeah. Appreciate the comment, though, here, man. Please make sure, guys, if you have any football questions whatsoever or shout-outs, hit me up right here on the live stream with those Super Chats. All right, guys, let's get up to our next division here in the AFC East. And, guys, we've got to start with the New York Football Giants. And we've seen the Giants move and fire head coach Brian Daboll early in the season, and they made the biggest head coaching splash hire to start the head coaching hiring carousel as they were able to bring in former Baltimore Ravens head coach John Harbaugh to be their next coach of the the New York Football Giants. And I like this move a lot, man. I really do think this is going to help with the development of young quarterback Jackson Dart. Hopefully Cam Scottaboo comes back next season fully healthy after that gruesome injury he had last season. And the same thing for Malik Neighbors, who's trying to come back from an ACL tear. So I really do think that this offense could be explosive for the New York Giants. And with all the playmakers they have on defense, this is a perfect situation for a guy like John Harbaugh Harbaugh to come in, change the culture around here for the Giants, and get the New York Football Giants back into the playoffs. And as a matter of fact, I really do think that John Harbaugh will be able to make this Giants squad a playoff team heading into next season, man. So looking at that, guys, as far as the offseason questions for the Giants, I really do think it's just going to be working on the offensive skill players, maybe just focusing on the NFL draft because they do have a lot of cap space tied up on their defense, and I think they want to keep those defensive playmakers intact, so they'll probably look to do that more so during the offseason rather than looking at a bunch of free agents. But look out for Coach John Harbaugh to have a huge impact on this Giants football team, guys. And we go here, guys, looking at the Dallas Cowboys. And, man, this one's going to be really interesting for me, right? They've got a first-time defensive coordinator in Christian Parker and a new staff. And after that defense did not play good last year, we're going to have to see if this Dallas Cowboys offense or I should say team in general can really step up to their potential, man, because they've got a lot of guys, a lot of really good guys on this team, especially after all the trades they made during the season, not only for Quentin Williams, but also for their linebacker Logan Wilson from the Cincinnati Bengals. This could be a defense who definitely looks a lot better next year, and the offense is hoping to keep that pace with quarterback Dak Prescott having a fantastic year this past year, even though Dallas did not make it to the playoffs. But this defense allowed a franchise record, the most points in franchise history with over 511. So that's not going to cut it heading into the next season, and we'll see how the Giants do, or I should say the Cowboys do in the NFL draft. We know Jerry Jones always has something up his sleeve, so something to keep out and look out for, man. For the Philadelphia Eagles, I think there's really only one big question heading into the offseason here, guys. Will they trade wide receiver A.J. Brown? I think this is going to be very interesting to see what happens with them. And guys, also something to note for the New York Giants, their new OC will be Matt Nagy, who I think will really come and help out that offense. But for the Philadelphia Eagles, they're going with sort of a not well-known name for their offensive coordinator coming up in the next season, and whether or not the Eagles will trade wide receiver A.J. Brown is definitely something to look into here heading into the 2026 offseason. And then for the Washington Commanders, the last team here in the NFC East division, I think for the Commanders, they've got to get back to playing defensive style football here, especially with the head coach there having to really revamp things. And they're going to also have to try to keep quarterback Jaden Daniels healthy throughout the whole season if the Commanders want to be successful. I think heading into this offseason, the Commanders just need to get a little younger on the defense and on the offense, but look for them to have a big impact in the NFL draft. I think there's probably one or two holes really that they need to fill, but they're going to probably look to get younger all the way around this whole team with rotational players and making sure that they stay healthy throughout the whole season so they can be competitive. And then, guys, we're heading into the NFC North. Looking at the Chicago Bears, will they be able to add a pass rusher, which I know someone mentioned in the comment earlier, possibly looking at going after Max Crosby of the Las Vegas Raiders could be a possibility, but they'll have to get rid of defensive end Montez Sweat and possibly Grady Jarrett. They have a lot of guys that they signed to free agent contracts on that defensive line, so they ranked 31st last year in pass win rate, only at 29%, so they really need to look to improve their pass rush heading into this offseason, and I like what I've seen from head coach Ben Johnson. He could have won head coach of the year, in my opinion, this year, and that award went to head coach Mike Vrabel of the New England Patriots. Going into the Detroit Lions, guys, how will the Detroit Lions look under new offensive coordinator Drew Petzing? And this guy comes in, hopefully, to change this offense around, which didn't play too bad last season, but they weren't consistent game in and game out. So the biggest question, I think, for Detroit, I think just goes back to the defense. Are they going to be able to stay healthy on defense? Are they going to be able to keep these guys and bring in some veteran guys, draft well to make sure that these guys stay healthy all year long with good rotational players? That's going to be tough for me to figure out for this Detroit Lions football team. But not too many questions, though, heading into the offseason for the Lions with their new offensive coordinator. He comes from the Cardinals, and we've seen the Cardinals ranked second in the NFL in rushing average last season and were ninth in rushing yards during his time there as the offensive coordinator for the Cardinals over the last 3 seasons. So look for the running game and play action game to be the focal point of this new offense for the Detroit Lions. Now, looking at the Green Bay Packers, we're going to have to see them replace their defensive coordinator. They actually hired former Arizona Cardinals head coach Jonathan Gannon to be their new defensive coordinator after losing Jeff Hafley, who became the new head coach for the Miami Dolphins. So really, that's what the Packers need to do. They got to get this defense playing elite. Hopefully, Micah Parsons comes back healthy, if not early in the season, late in the season, for the Packers to help give them some help, especially with that pass rush that was not good last year. And looking at the offense, I think for the Packers, they're going to have to try to make some pretty big decisions at the wide receiver position. Maybe try to find another elite guy to sign and bring on that squad. A veteran guy would be something I would look at as well. They're probably going to have to look at the tight end position with their injury to their playmaking tight end Kraft earlier this year. And also look for them to get some more depth along that offensive line, possibly in the NFL draft for the Green Bay Packers. And guys, how about the Minnesota Vikings? And I'm sure a lot of Vikings fans were not too happy after seeing quarterback Sam Darnold win a Super Bowl with the Seattle Seahawks, and I'm sure Viking fans thought if they still had Sam Darnold this past year, they could have contended for a Super Bowl as well. But for me, man, I really do think for the Minnesota Vikings, we need to see what they're going to do with quarterback J.J. McCarthy right now. I do think it's a possibility that we could see quarterback Kirk Cousins come back to the Minnesota Vikings, especially because he's expected to be released by the Atlanta Falcons, and I really do think that could be a good fit for him there to give J.J. McCarthy another guy to learn from, sit behind, and be able to sort of earn that starting job rather than just being handed it to him. For the offseason here for the Vikings, they're just going to get better on offense, man. They got to run the football better. And maybe even look at improving that running back position with a veteran heading into the 2026 NFL offseason. And then, guys, we get into the NFC South Division. And, of course, we've got to start with those Atlanta Falcons who are expected to release quarterback Kirk Cousins after they reworked his contract last offseason. They set it up so they could possibly release him before June, so that way they don't have to deal with the big cap hit that Kirk Cousins will have if he is still on the roster once we get to June and the offseason workout program for the Atlanta Falcons. So they're going to look to clear up some cap space by letting go of Kirk Cousins. But now that leaves just a big giant question at what they're going to do with the quarterback position. Michael Penix Jr. is dealing with another knee injury. This is his 6th or 7th knee injury in his football career, dating all the way back to college and high school. So for me, they're going to possibly need to look at a veteran guy in the offseason or drafting another quarterback, which I don't think I would recommend if I was a Falcons fan. I'm saying they should draft a guy, but maybe looking at a guy like Malik Willis, somebody who's got some experience coming in and helping out this offense, someone that could mentor Penix Jr. as he recovers from that knee injury. For the Falcons, though, they are going under a new regime after they fired head coach Raheem Morris after only 2 seasons as their head coach, and they brought in former head coach of the year, a 2-time head coach of the year with the Cleveland Browns, Kevin Stefanski, Kevin Stefanski comes in as their new head football coach, and I really do think that this guy could be a big improvement for this offense and for this Atlanta Falcons team. So we'll look to see how they're able to improve because they do not have a lot of assets. They don't have a first-round pick in the upcoming 2026 NFL draft, and their cap space is going to make it hard for them to be able to compete for top free agent talent, not only on the defensive side of the ball, but also on that offensive side of the ball. So it could be a rough offseason for the Atlanta Falcons, but I do like the hiring of their new head coach, Kevin Stefanski, who comes in with a lot of experience. Now, guys, we're going to go into the Carolina Panthers, and for the Carolina Panthers, they need to take a big swing at the linebacker position. That's right. They need to get athletic with that linebacker position. This secondary is one of the best secondaries in the NFL on this Panthers defense, but that linebacker position has not been very good over the last few years, so they're going to need to look to improve that and the pass rush for this Panthers defense. And on offense, they need to get more consistency out of this offense week in and week out. You're hoping to see another improvement, another jump of improvement from quarterback Bryce Young heading into what could be a contract year for him in the last year of his rookie deal, I believe. And then also, I think a big priority for them will be re-signing running back Rico Dowdle, who only signed a one-year deal and really dominated that running game for the Carolina Panthers this year. So look out for that for the Panthers heading into the offseason, guys. And then how about the New Orleans Saints? Will they extend wide receiver Chris Olave? Well, after pondering retirement, Olave passed over 1,000 or caught 100 passes for over 1,163 yards this season and played in 16 games. So will they give a contract extension to wide receiver Chris Olave? I'm not sure, but the way that the young quarterback Tyler Schott played near the end of the season, I think you've got to give him as many playmakers as you can get on this offense. Focus on the running back position because I don't know if they're going to stick with Alvin Kamara or not. They could look to trade him this offseason, and they've got to get a lot more younger and athletic on that defense that struggled throughout this season this year for the New Orleans Saints. And then, guys, that gets you to my Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's right, guys. Here in this NFC South division, the Buccaneers finished, unfortunately, just a half a game shy of, I should say, it was actually not even a half a game, but sort of a tiebreaker away from winning the NFC South division once again. But the two biggest questions for the Buccaneers, will they be able to re-sign veteran linebacker Levante David and veteran wide receiver Mike Evans? These guys have been pillars of this football franchise for quite a while for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So if you ask me, these two guys re-signing them and bringing them back, whether it's on a 1-year or 2-year deal, will be very key and important for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers heading into the offseason. Not only that, we also will see a new offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which I am excited about, as we'll see Zach Robinson is a guy who takes over after being the Atlanta Falcons offensive coordinator this past season, and I do like the similarities that I have seen in the way Robinson runs the Atlanta Falcon offense and what he could do with the playmakers here with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense. So for the Buccaneers, they just need to get a little bit healthier, figure out what they need to do with their cap space, and then they have got to focus on improving this defense. The pass rush has been terrible over the last 2 seasons, and they need to get more younger and athletic at the linebacker position, especially finding guys who can pass coverage better than what we've seen this past season for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. Now, the secondary for Tampa Bay is young. I really do think we've got a lot of playmakers in that secondary. So look out for general manager Jason Licht to make some big moves in the NFL draft coming up as well, man. So yeah, those are big questions there for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Looking forward to seeing what new offensive coordinator Robinson can do for the Buccaneers heading in to the 2026 offseason. Woo! And then up next, guys, we got the NFC West Division, our last division here on Tim Reynolds Show for this Friday football talk. Hope you guys have enjoyed it thus far. Buddha, what's going on? Corey, how we doing? And Keith in the chat. Thank you, guys. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Hope you guys are doing well. If you have any football questions or anything whatsoever you guys want to ask or shout out, make sure you hit me up with those super chats here on Tim Reynolds Show. So, guys, the Arizona Cardinals moved on from Jonathan Gannon as they fired him as their head coach and hired Mike LaFleur, the former offensive coach for the Los Angeles Rams. We see Mike LaFleur will be the new head coach for the Arizona Cardinals, and we've got to see the Cardinals figure out what to do with quarterback Kyler Murray. That's going to be their biggest question heading into the offseason, and whether or not they keep the young quarterback and hope that Mike LaFleur can sort of bring get a fire in the belly of Kyler Murray and get him playing better football, or will they see Cardinals move on from their franchise quarterback who could be possibly looking to get traded to another contender? But that's going to be really the biggest question of the future for the Arizona Cardinals. They have been just up and down over the last 10 or so seasons. So we're going to need to see what they're able to do, not only with the defense, but also with Mike LaFleur being an offensive-minded head coach. I'm really interested to see what he does differently with this offense that needs playmakers all across the offense and some playmakers on the defense as well. All right, guys, we see up here, next team in the NFC West Division, we got the Los Angeles Rams, who finished just short of being able to make it to the Super Bowl as they gave the Seattle Seahawks a run for their money. Most people actually said that the NFC Championship was the actual Super Bowl because of how competitive it was. And for me, man, I really do think that we're going to see Stafford be able to build off of this MVP season. Congratulations to Matthew Stafford winning his first ever NFL MVP award. He comes in, he'll be turning 39 this upcoming season, but we also could see a reunion with possibly Von Miller, who could be a guy that the Rams look to sign this offseason to sort of help out this defense as well. But the Rams also could be using 2 first-round picks to trade up to get somebody or use that draft capital to help get a veteran pass rusher on this defense, which is really their biggest need, if you ask me. They will need to look at the offensive line as well, with one of their veteran offensive linemen retiring this offseason. And then we look at the San Francisco 49ers and how aggressive will the 49ers be in adding more roster depth, especially after all the injuries they dealt with this past season. We're going to need to really look to see how they replace their defensive coordinator, Robert Saleh. Well, I like the new addition at DC, bringing in Raheem Morris, the former Atlanta Falcons head coach, is now the defensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers, and I think that's already maybe not an upgrade over Robert Saleh, but probably just as good, which should help out this defense tremendously. And the 49ers have not been, let's say, quiet when it comes to their offseason moves. I do expect them to move on from wide receiver Brandon Ayuk. It's going to be really interesting to see where he ends up. But I think for this offense for San Francisco, they're going to need to look to just get some more depth on that offensive line, possibly get another playmaker at the wide receiver position in free agency. And then they're going to need to add a lot more depth on that defense, whether it's through free agency this NFL offseason or in the 2026 NFL draft. So look out for the 49ers. You know, head coach Kyle Shanahan and general manager John Lynch always have something cooking up there, man. Raheem Morris was a headache for Tampa Bay. Oh, Malik, ain't that the truth? All right, guys, and then our last team here on this Friday Football Talk here on Tim Reynolds Show. How about the Super Bowl champs, the Seattle Seahawks? What will they be able to do as they try to look to defend their title? Well, first, they're going to have to replace offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak, who was hired by the Las Vegas Raiders to be their next head coach. So that's going to be the biggest key for head coach Mike Macdonald for the Super Bowl champions. And they also need to re-sign their Super Bowl MVP, Kenneth Walker, comes into this offseason as an unrestricted free agent, which means he's possibly going to look to get a big bag, if you know what I mean. And especially with Zach Charbonnet likely out until the second half of the season with that knee injury that he suffered late this past season, that's going to be huge. And not only that, we also see on that defensive staff that cornerbacks Woolen and also Josh Jobe and safety Kobe Bryant are all expected to be big name free agents that could be getting big contracts elsewhere. So how will Seattle be able to either re-sign those guys or be able to replace those guys will be key for this Mike Macdonald's defense. And remember, this was the top scoring NFL defense last year, and it may look a lot different heading into next season. So we'll see how that plays out for Seattle. I think their biggest questions will be what they do with their defensive free agents, whether or not they re-sign them or bring in some other guys to replace them or look for some young guys in the upcoming 2026 NFL draft. Don't forget, guys, the NFL draft here in 2026 will be in Pittsburgh this year, which is pretty dang cool. But we will also be going live here on Tim Reynolds Show with play-by-play and reaction of the 2026 NFL draft first round and possibly the second and third rounds as well. It's one of those things that I've done on my channel since I started early doing my YouTube channel videos here on Tim Reynolds Show. And hey, Thank you guys for hanging out here, man, on this Friday Football Talk. I think this upcoming NFL draft will be very exciting. I like what our boy Keith says in the chat here. I think we'll see a lot of shockers, a lot of big moves, and I'm excited to see what happens, man. And what's up, Jamie? He says, do you think the Eagles will let go of Nakobe Dean? You know, Jamie, I probably wouldn't do that if I was the Eagles. Dean has shown some promise. It's only the injuries that have seemed to really hold him back, but they could possibly get some good trade value for him if they're able to move on from him this offseason. I think he's a guy worth holding on to if you're the Philadelphia Eagles. And then, guys, another big thing for the NFL news, guys, we could see the Pat McAfee show with their sideline field pass that they normally do for the college football playoff. Well, if you guys didn't know, ESPN will be hosting the Super Bowl next year in 2027. So we could see the Pat McAfee show part of a mega cast or a field pass sidecast that they have simulcasting with the actual broadcast of the Super Bowl next year. I think that's going to be pretty cool and pretty dope, if you ask me. Oh, Jamie says he's a free agent this offseason. Well, Dean is probably not going to be able to get a very high number this offseason, so I could see the Eagles re-signing him probably on a good one-year deal to see how he does coming back from injury. And I really do think that, hey, the Eagles got to keep the guys and keep this defense intact as best they can, because that's the better part of this team from last year, in my opinion. All right, guys. So that's been it here for this Friday Football Talk here on Tim Reynolds Show. If you guys have any football questions whatsoever, please hit me up before we get going here on the live stream. And if not, guys, make sure you hit me up in the comments here after we get this posted on what you guys thought of the NFL questions that I have heading into the offseason. Some of the big things to answer, you know, who will be the big free agent quarterback signing this offseason? I don't really think there's going to be a lot of big name free agents or trades, if you ask me, unless we could see maybe Kyler Murray, a Tua Tagovailoa traded. So other than that, guys, I'm not really sure what we will do. But I do like what Jamie's saying here, though. I do think it's a possibility that the Philadelphia Eagles will let tight end Dallas Goedert walk, man. That is definitely something to look out for the Eagles in this upcoming offseason. What's up, Plain Sharks? Yeah, Kirk Cousins. I think that guy, he could have played his last snap of football, to be honest, man. He played pretty decently over the last few weeks of the season, but I don't know if he did enough to be able to get a chance to be a contender once again with an NFL franchise. And oh man, look at that, guys. We've got a $2 super chat donation from our boy Keith, one of our longtime subscribers and moderators here on the channel. Keith, appreciate you, man, showing some love here on the channel. Oh, and look at Jamie calling his shot. Kyler Murray to the Steelers. That could be a tall task, but I would like head coach Mike McCarthy with Kyler Murray. I think that pair would work very, very well together. So thank you, Jamie, for your comment there, and thank you, everybody else, for hanging out here on Tim Reynolds Show, one of the most electrifying sports entertainment channels on YouTube today. This is Tim Reynolds Show's Friday Football Talk, discussing the upcoming 2026 NFL offseason and everything in between. Appreciate you guys hanging out here on Tim Reynolds Show. Jabari, what's going on, man? Welcome back, dude. And look at that. Jamie also thinks that Jalen Milroe gets traded from the Seahawks. Good possibility. That's a young quarterback, a good, talented quarterback, and someone to definitely look out for this upcoming NFL offseason. But all right, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out here on the channel. Saints gonna go crazy. Tua to the Cardinals, this Plain Shark. Dude, guys, I like this feedback we're getting here on the channel, everybody. Thank you so much, man. And guys, don't forget, we're gonna be going live later tonight for the WWE SmackDown play-by-play and reaction right here on Tim Reynolds Show. And hey, we'll be talking about a little NASCAR with the Daytona coming up this weekend as well. Don't forget, guys, we'll be doing live play-by-play for NASCAR Cup Series racing with the Daytona 500 this Sunday on Tim Reynolds Show. You guys will like that, I promise you, man. Thank you guys so much. Jabari says you should get Keenan Coleman. Hey, You'd probably be able to get him for a good price for the Saints, Jabari. Not a bad move, in my opinion, brother. I like that. And thank you guys so much for hanging out on the channel. Don't forget to show your support with those super chats by signing up for channel memberships or donating by hitting the link on the top of my YouTube page, guys. It's definitely been a struggle here, man, trying to make sure I'm working my full-time job and also coming on here to give you guys some more content throughout the week, man. The bills have been stacking up, so, man, any way that you guys can help out really does mean a lot to me, and I appreciate y'all for all the love and support you've given me here. We're going to make sure that 2026 is even better than what 2025 was here on Tim Reynolds Show, and I hope you guys will be along for the journey. Thank you so much, guys, for hanging out here on Tim Reynolds Show for this Friday football talk. We'll see you guys next time here on Tim Reynolds Show. Peace out, everybody. Have a good day, man. Peace out. Appreciate the love. We'll see y'all next time. Hell yeah. Let's go. It's Tim Reynolds Show.